Welcome to Today with Totally Out Now. I'm Raga Olga De Silva, or Totally Out Now, as you know me. So, yesterday was the final day of the hearing at the Supreme Court for marriage equality rights. The last few weeks have been a bit of a roller coaster for the LGBTQ plus community, with several opposing parties coming out and sharing homophobic, transphobic comments. The most recent attack came from an RSS affiliated organization who said homosexuality is a disorder and backed the government's stand on same sex marriage rights, or marriage equality as we prefer to call it. Another affiliate of RSS said in its survey that it found that many doctors and allied medical professionals believe that homosexuality is a disorder and it will increase further in society if same sex marriage is legalized. And then someone else from the RSS said, I have said this before on record. You can live with anyone you like, but in the Hindu philosophy of life, marriage is a sanskar. It is not an instrument of only enjoyment, he said. Neither is it a contract. The sanskar of marriage means two individuals getting married and living together, but not for themselves. They also start a family. So the question then is the Indian society stuck in its understanding of sanskar? Will marriage equality really cause havoc in society? Is India ready for marriage equality? Let's watch.
ऐसा होना नहीं चाहिए, ये गलत है ये दोनों
जो ये दिया है कि नेचुरली मेल एंड फीमेल दैट इज प्रॉपर दिस इज नॉट
तो आदमी आदमी से शादी करना चाहते हैं भाई नर और नर कभी बना नहीं
आई विल नॉट एग्री फॉर दिस
तो कैसे हो जाएगा मैं भाई नहीं मैं नहीं करूँगा
I think it's fine if people are in love, irrespective of their gender.
उनका पर्सनल लाइफ है, कुछ भी कर सकते हैं वो
फिर भी सही है दोनों का उससे मिलने चाहिए ना जब तो प्यार हो
हाँ कर सकते हैं क्यों नहीं कर सकते कोई दिक्कत नहीं है इसको उनकी अपनी लाइफ है they have to live.
Brilliant, thank you. Now I'm going to invite two very dynamic speakers. Fiery is what I say, and very loving, and they are very close friends of mine, and very privileged to have them on our show. Sharif Rangnecker, author, singer-songwriter, director, Rainbow Lit Fest. I think it's coming up soon, right? The Lit Fest?
Yeah, this year, December.
Sharif, your book, I hold very close to my heart. It sits next to my bed. I've learned a lot from it. So thank you for sharing so authentically. We also have Sonal Gyani. Sonal, welcome. A dynamic activist with over 15 years of experience advocating LGBTQI plus rights in India and South Asia. She's a senior technical advisor, diversity and inclusion at the International Planned Parenthood Federation, IPPF as we call it, where she provides technical assistance to member associations for implementing inclusive strategies and empowerment approaches in the field of SRHR. Welcome, Sonal. Lovely to have you back on our show. Lovely to have smiling faces, but I want to start with Sharif. Sharif, should we be smiling?
We should be smiling. I think we should be smiling because when we listen to at least the bench, we should feel pretty good that there are some reasonable people out there. I think also when we listen to a variety of lawyers, those who have been fighting petitions for us on same-sex marriage, I think they brought out so many issues that perhaps we would never have discussed on dignity, on rights, the whole aspect of blood relative, and the number of laws that just sort of seem to stream out of that, it's I think it's been an education also for a lot of people from the community to know, and also to make us aware of the kind of opposition and the unreasonable thinking that is at the other end. We've heard of gay bashing, we've heard of queer bashing, transphobia, we get to know it, but in your face live to hear certain things, obviously it's also been triggering for so many people. I've been seeing that on various groups. And it can sometimes get you really, really angry because you sometimes want to actually sit with some of those lawyers or the people who they're representing and have a face-to-face. So my answer, at least in a slightly lighter way, the answer to sanskar is sunscreen.
Sanskar is sunscreen.
Yeah, they should, because they all say, "Na, mere baal safed aise hi nahi hua hai," and all of these kind of stuff, really stuff they keep saying. I think sanskars need to be repaired with sunscreen. We need to They need to coat themselves. They need to, start understanding what it is to live. And I think the problem with the kind of thinking is a certain kind of bhakti
Yep.
towards what we call dharma. There is a certain assumption and importance given to, a following. That's why I think people follow gurus very easily in this country and follow false sort of, fake news in this country so easily. It's because it's a system. Culturally, I think our nation has been about folklore, gharana culture, handing things down. We never documented everything, and I think as a result of which, also with the education that we've had, we've excluded so many things that have belonged to the subcontinent also. Actually, what I remember, Salim and I, when we used to sit and talk, and the reason why Salim Kidwai, and I think people should know Salim Kidwai is this great historian that we had. We lost. He was the co-author of Same Sex Love in India, which documented so much about the community from the past, including what was called the Islamic period, and he with Ruth Vanita. And so we used to say that, if people studied enough and if our education was, good enough, we would have understood that homophobia was what was important, what is Western,
Yep.
not homosexuality or this thing. And so I think they've got the sanskars wrong. I don't know what kind of sama they are.
I'll come back to you on that, Sharif, because I think when you talk about education, it's very important to elaborate on is
Yeah,
education, are we talking about awareness or are we talking about education? Because I believe there are two different things,
both. But I think it's
because there are
both. Yeah.
educated people who are talking about sanskar and giving disinformations, right? So,
True,
Sonal,
true.
I'm going to ask you this question. Sonal, I was going to start with Sharif on this, but I'm going to say, can you give us a recap on what's happening since 17th or 18th April, since it went, the Supreme Court started the hearing?
Yeah. I think, like, first of all, I think for a layman audience, I think it's important to set some context about this whole marriage rights in India. Because I think, I'm finding a lot of people who are like, what's the big deal? Just give marriage, just change it. Like, it's just one law, they have to change it. But it's not that simple. It's actually quite complex when it comes to the marriage rights in India and how marriage registration works in India. And I think it would be nice to just quickly clear that, if
Sure.
that's okay with you. Yeah. So first of all, it's important to understand that there's a difference between getting married and registering your marriage. Okay. So as of now, people are getting married, and what we are fighting for is around the registration of this marriage. In India, actually, before British colonization, also there weren't really any proper laws or a codification of how marriage should be registered. But in the 1850s is when you sort of see the first few laws coming. So essentially, because India had many religions, what we did end up having was that we had different marriage acts for different religions. Okay, so for example, when it comes to Hindus, there was the Hindu Marriage Act, which was in 1955, and it was not just applicable to Hindus; it was Hindus, Buddhists, Jains, and Sikhs. Sikhs continue to fight. We are not Hindu, but anyway. Then there was the Muslim Personal Law 1937, Christian Marriage Act 1872, and Parsi Marriage and Divorce Act 1936. There were also a bunch of people who would want intercaste marriages or interreligious marriages, or just not get registered through a religious ceremony. And for such people, there was the Special Marriage Act of 1954, right? So now, what has happened before these set of hearings is that what has happened is different individuals, okay, have approached their different courts in India. So, for example, in the Kerala High Court, there was a couple who said that I think we need to talk about Special Marriage Act. So, if you look at the Special Marriage Act, actually the wording in the Special Marriage Act is that this is like a secular act which allows any two individuals to marry regardless of their religion, but it requires a notice period of like 30 days for the marriage to be registered. Only if there's no objection, the marriage can proceed. Also, like, it's not like you are not married if you are not registered, but if you want to register a marriage, you can go to the local magistrate and get it registered. Now, what was happening is that people are getting married. They go to the marriage registrar, and the registrar says, "No, we can't get you married." So people say, "Oh, Special Marriage Act is two individuals." So they say, "No, no, that is not. That's not. We don't interpret it as for two individuals. It's only two heterosexual people." And that's where the problem sort of starts. Okay, so then a couple of people are like, okay, this SMA, the ambit of it has to be increased. Then what happened? A couple of people also started challenge the Hindu Marriage Act. Now that is when religion stepped in. So far, none of the people who have challenged the other ones, which is the Muslims, Christian, and Parsi one. Okay, it's a really Hindu marriage, special marriage. And then there were a couple of people who are living abroad, who are married. That one partner in their country is a foreigner in their country. They are recognized as their spouse. But in India, we don't. Their marriage is not registered. The Foreign Marriage Registration Act is not looking at you as married. So there were some people who were like petitioned also. Now what happens in court is that one high court, like if it says something, it's applicable to the rest of the states, unless it is challenged in another high court. Now because there are multiple high courts with multiple cases, the court can't have separate voices. It has to have a single voice. So what they did was they clubbed it together and said like the Supreme Court should now look at this. So now there are some 18 petitions who've got sort of clubbed, which are challenging mostly the Special Marriage Act, that how do you interpret it, then this Hindu Marriage Act, this Foreign Marriage Registration Act, and it's not just individuals, there are also NGOs, who have stepped in, who are like talking about it, right? Now, what happens is because this is a huge case, it is of a social importance. What has happened is that these court hearings are now being heard by a five-judge bench, which is headed by the Chief Justice of India. Like it's that no less important, and they are also being telecast live. So you will see that the hearings or these 10 days of hearings, all of that is actually live telecasted for like everybody to say, which is very interesting, okay, because that didn't happen in 3 cents. So we didn't even know what the hell was happening, but now we know, okay, something like what is happening. Now what has happened is different sides have presented their different arguments. Okay, so usually they will ask the government to give an opinion. So who gives the opinion from the government side? So it's usually the executive body, and on behalf of the Union of India, we have the Solicitor General who will come and give the view of the government. In our case, it is Tushar Mehta. You will keep hearing, the
Yes.
Solicitor General SG Tushar Mehta. Now Tushar Mehta is saying, okay, on behalf of the government, oh my god, I'm going to be really like laymanish about it. Oh my god, India is going to get destroyed, our tradition is going to destroyed, and this is only upper class elitist people's issue, nobody wants this marriage and all that. And anyway, it's not the court who should be deciding on marriage. This is a law, so it has to go through the parliament. Then he's also saying that we can't. If you're talking about only marriage equality in other countries also, there are very few countries who have given marriage, so we can't do this basically. The community, on the other hand, is saying that that we should have the equal rights, equal dignified rights. We are already getting married. Nobody is stopping us. We already have kids. Now, because you're not registering our marriage, there are problems that are coming up. Whether it is for our children, whether it is for us to be recognized when we come back from abroad, or if I want to get insurance, things like that. There are problems that are coming up. As far as this elitist argument is concerned, that's all like crap, because petitioners are obviously from different they're not just from elitist backgrounds, and even if we were elitist, you still have to carry the constitution guarantees rights to everyone. Even if I was a single person, they have to still sort of listen to us. And what we are also telling, what other arguments that are coming is what the CGI is saying is that what they said after hearing the government was very negative. So they said we will not stretch our ambit to the personal laws. These are all the religious laws. We'll only look at the Special Marriage Act. And that's when the community is like, okay, if you are going to go with Special Marriage Act, we'll not touch the others. This was interesting because then all the religious people who are like, sitting in opposition had to keep quiet
Yeah, they
because
slipped
you're
away.
not
Yeah.
touching your laws. Now, when it comes to like Special Marriage Act, it's still like, LG is like, LG bol rahe hai, SG is like, oh, we can't do it. So now then what the CGI has asked them, the CGI asks, okay, if you are saying that, oh, they have right to dignity, they have privacy, and it's we can't give them marriage, but we think they should have other rights, then what is the solution that you can provide if you're not going to give them marriage rights? So they this one comes back with the government opinion saying that we will
Committee.
form a cabinet expert will come, we will sit with the community, we'll listen to all their stuff, and then we will make some exceptions. We will make some different
Recommendation.
interpretation and we will give you. Okay. Now, what does that mean even? So, it's important to also understand why maybe the CGI is looking at this. If you've seen other countries, right, what they have done is that instead of giving marriage, touching the word marriage and touching religion, they have given people civil union, which is very similar to Special Marriage Act, but civil union, right? So the civil union is basically we'll give you all your rights, but we won't call it marriage. Okay. Now the thing is that now the community is like, and most people are then even people who are allies like you should be happy with it, right? But why should we be happy? Because it's not the same thing, right? It's not marriage the way we sort of recognize it. I'm already married. I've got married in the Hindu whatever or whatever my religion with a priest. You are people having problem with the registration, right? So we are like, no, don't treat us like second class citizen, we want the full thing, right? Now both sides have been heard, and 10 days of hearings went on, and now CGI and the judges, they are all like, okay, we are now reserving the judgment. What does that mean? That means we have heard all your hearings, both sides we've heard you, now we are not going to hear anything more. Okay, we've heard as much as was this thing. Now unless there's a like a real exception, whatever something really like they are not going to hear you. Now they will come out next with the verdict. Now usually how much time does how much time can you reserve a judgment? We have seen the Supreme Court telling some high courts that you should not reserve a judgment more than 2 months, more than 6 months, but usually within 2 months they will tell you. The court will now go in for a break. Okay. So either they will tell us before that or they will tell us after that. The reason they want this is because they have to write down the judgment. Listening to everything, then they will all present their judgment. Sometimes what happens that we all may agree, sometimes they may not agree. So we will see whether there's consensus or there is a dissenting judge. That will be sort
Okay.
of interesting to see. So this
Okay,
is where we
great.
are at.
Sonal,
Yeah.
fabulous, fabulous. I think anybody who
Fantastic
is
history.
listening in, yeah, it's amazing. I'm just thinking I'm going to take a snippet of this and share with actually people who keep asking. They keep saying, "But are 377 has been passed? No, it's been turned down, so now you can marry." Not
Yeah.
realizing that actually it doesn't mean anything. Or with me, because I'm an intervener, and like you said about people who live overseas, married overseas, have no rights in India. It impacts me. They say, "Hey, you're an upper class, you're elitist, upper class, what privileged." All those things they put you and push you away. But why not? When I come to India, I have the right. And Sharif, I'm going to come back to you on this, saying that we're coming back to the question of is society ready? When when all these conversations are happening in the background, all of us are listening, but this misinformation or disinformation, you and I spoke briefly about homophobia, the homophobes, the transphobes are now coming out. How does it impact the society? How does it, our community is together in a way, in whatever way we can be. But so, people are watching, people are listening to the media, they're watching TV, they're reading the newspaper. When there's disinformation, how do we counter that?
See, I think one of the biggest problems that has occurred in the last few days, more than what happened in the courts, there were all kinds of statements, questions raised, etc. But I think there was still a little bit of dignity in which the lawyers representing opposing folks spoke. I
Yeah.
think the worst is that recent report from that sister concern of the RSS. And there were jokes in our community also that it is in English, we should ignore it. There was a lot of, I mean, I think sometimes we also laugh something off because we've got used to people saying certain things or certain language used, and that's the best way to sort of defend yourself or keep yourself sort of sane. But I think we've all realized that that survey and that report is regressive as hell. It is a pre 377 sort of allegation. It questions our basic mental state. So that is like going back in time. And and that is more dangerous than anything else that may have happened during the court proceedings. Because this has gone in different languages across several states. It has gone into homes where, one, they may never have thought about us firstly existing.
Yep.
And if they did, they had a bias, or they said, I don't care. I don't care and I don't want. They may have, or they may now think, oh, these people aren't okay. They're mental retards. They're
Yeah.
trying to corrupt our children. They will try and adopt. They will try and abuse us. They will, all kinds of sort of stuff it gets legitimized. And the problem, what people don't realize, in any kind of case when you're dealing with minorities, when the majority already has a bias against you of some form or the other, every bias turns into hate. And that hate can come not just verbally, but physically. And it gets legitimized, and it will never be seen as a crime when, in the minds of those people, it is already fine to because it's the same thing with women, right? When she's raped, according to sanskar, she should sit at home,
Yep. No, exactly.
right?
I agree with you, Sharif.
And so if she's raped, she's not the victim. First they will start questioning her,
Yep.
because they hate her. They hate her guts. So they hate our guts to make choices which are against their idea of how to live.
I
So
worried about it, Sharif. Sorry, when
it's
I,
scary. It's
yeah,
scary. This I was just talking to some people in Hyderabad this afternoon, and we were talking exactly about the backlash that we could face even after the court gives a verdict most likely in our favor.
sure. No, exactly. So when I read that, and I actually saw your comment, I think it was on Twitter or somewhere where you said that who are these doctors who have said it? Their licenses should be cancelled. I agree with you. Because on the same day or maybe a day prior, we heard about a teenage, sorry, trigger warning people, a teenage suicide from the community. So we don't realize the danger of this within our community as well. Children who come out to parents, look at the danger we have placed them into. It is an irresponsible statement to make. And I was thinking about from the other point of view, saying that you women, you are saying these things about the community, but you live in dysfunctional relationships. You allow for abuse, you allow for child abuse, you allow for domestic violence. I think that is a bigger disorder than calling our earth. I think that
Rather,
thing needs to change.
The other bit is you
rather,
can legally challenge it as well. When you talk about the
yeah,
Mental Health Act, right? It very clearly speaks about this because mental health issue is very primary concern of communities, and the Mental Health Act, in fact, very clearly says that there's no cure and things like that. And so it's really a medical malpractice for these doctors to say whatever they did. And when you use these figures also, na, like 80%, okay, how many? 80% of
Yeah.
how many? You are
80%
selling,
was
you
true.
talk to 10 people and
Yeah.
then 8 agreed, will you say
80% are
80%?
true. I mean,
This
like
is like
10.
that Bar Council of India saying 99.99%. So who's Bar Council
Yeah.
of India is it? When I
Yeah.
heard Bar Council of India, we were like, oh, who is this body? Like,
Yeah.
oh my God, like, is it a big body? Turns out they are a regulatory
yeah,
body for lawyers. Okay.
yeah. But
And this is a bunch
Sonal,
of group who are doing
but
regulation for lawyers. They are claiming to represent all of India.
but
Okay,
Exactly.
can you
interestingly,
just calm down and
so
sit down? Like,
but in the 2000s, actually the Bar Council was perceived as liberal because they actually said 377 should be read down. I
yeah.
remember I was a reporter then. So the way they just swing, it's like the Congress manifesto in Karnataka and their response in from Rajasthan.
No,
They
but they
just
should
swing.
say 99.9% of us regulating the bar council don't agree with this.
It was so
Stop
misleading.
trying to be India. You're not our
Yeah,
parliamentarians.
yeah.
You're not
It
our
was so
MP. You're
misleading.
nobody. Yeah, yeah.
Sonal, we had someone on our show who was an advocate, who's an advocate, and she said, "Don't give this Bar Council of India too much,
Yeah,
emphasis, too much importance. They're nobody. She's not even bothered." She said, for
exactly.
some reason, the entire media and the entire LGBT community is saying, "Oh my God, 99.9% of our country, it's not right." We gave them too much importance. Discard away, not of importance to us. We don't care what you think, what you say. But Sonal, I'm going to come to you on that. When we hear this kind of misinformation, Sharif, I put that forward to you as well. Both, please respond. How do we counter this kind of information? Because we end up giving them too much importance when we should completely ignore them because they have no importance. But in doing so, we're actually highlighting that 99.9% of India is against marriage equality.
No, I think that you have to address it, right? Because the thing is that this kind of information, it's not in our control. The minute somebody has of India attached to it, people don't go back to kind of fact check that what is this organization, all of that. So it's only the responsible thing to give the, you do a fact check and present information. It creates a spirit for healthy debate. I think as activists we have to speak out, because these kind of things our community also then faces. Like we, like you and I, we may be like over the years we have become experts on the subject, and for me, frankly, somebody says homophobic, I am not at all bothered, and I am able to handle it very careful easily. But not for people on the ground who
Yeah,
don't know how to answer these questions. So it's so important that we go there and don't get bullied by these people. I understand that that we should not be giving too much air to, but try to understand this, Raga. It's not us who are giving that visibility; it's our media which is giving the visibility. So not talking about it will cause more damage. We are not then giving any kind of armory to our community to fight back against this kind of stupid misinformation. The
brilliant to
thing is,
bring
if
that
we
up.
arm them with, you educate our community,
Yeah,
they will put all this nonsense to in its place.
yeah, yeah.
You
So,
know,
so Sharif, sorry, sorry. Go on.
Raga, yeah, having spent, over 10 years in the press, and having then also been on the comms side where we had to deal with crisis situations, stuff like this. Sometimes it was misinformation, sometimes it was misrepresentation, or something taken out of context, right? Now, you need to understand from a media point of view and how people read, listen, view, and consume information. I don't think that a counter argument from us just by speaking and doing a fact check is enough. It will be too little. It's too little. I have known it for the longest time that even when the press went wrong, the sorry used to be somewhere, God knows where.
Yeah.
And it was never proportionate to the report in terms of size. And there is something called first mover advantage.
Yeah,
And there
So,
is
for
something with
me,
the power of comms that is there. When we are talking about a group which has put out a survey like this, please try and understand the cadres and the power of that group. We have no visibility of what that is. Forget the report to start with, right?
sure, sure.
So my view really is two, three things. We have to have our activists speaking, but I think we also need to start addressing laws that protect us in terms of discrimination of this kind
Yeah,
of stuff. We need to use the courts more effectively when it comes to defaming a community and using those kind, because we've done it. The Hindus have done it on defamatory things about art, this, that, and the other. Right? We need to use all those laws that are available as civilians of this country, as civil people who have certain rights. That's one part of it. We, I think, need to also put our resources together to create factual information. We should have counter surveys done with more aware people. Okay, we need to use every weapon of information, even if it means religion, to counter, to do that and build around that. And I think that's where the combination of activists working at ground, lawyers going out, it has to be multi-constituency.
yeah.
We need to also make political parties who are putting us into manifestos and using it to gain vote, doing typical vote bank politics. I'm sorry, typical tokenism vote bank politics, irrespective of which party is. We have to get out of this binary of left and right while addressing these things.
I agree.
There are laws which are not for left and right, they're not built on left and right.
Yeah.
The constitution is also not built on left and right, nor are we people who believe in binaries. I think we should get out of all of those things. That's the only way we can fight, I feel.
Sharif,
And
I'm
it's
going
a
to come back to you on more discussion on media. I also read your interview with Anish Gawande, founder of Pink List.
uh,
I'll come back to that. Sonal, you were trying to add something?
I was saying I couldn't agree more with Sharif and all the points that Sharif has made. So the thing is, see, whatever we may say, clearly when it comes to visibility or reach, our opposition is has that kind of reach just because simply they are in the majority, right? So I mean, like, the danger is when we don't speak against it, and this I feel is a little bit, my personal opinion, very elitist. We think, oh, just let it go,
Mm,
don't panic.
absolutely.
But the point is that it does affect communities where information isn't. So from where I come from, I'm like, I need to at least give my communities like the kind of information to be able to challenge it, so that they can, at least within their circles, they are aware of it. And I'm actually very happy these court hearings are happening like publicly,
publicly.
because one, they inform us of all the arguments, but secondly, we know who's speaking what in exact detail, who said what, and our opposition may not be very closely watching it, but we are watching everything that's happening in the court very closely.
Exactly, exactly, exactly. So on that, Sharif, you were talking about media, and for me, again, I'm just going to just focus on the show, the kind of conversations we've had with many influencers on the show, and because my view of India is very limited at this point, I only know what's online or what I watch on TV or what is shared with me. So I have been told that it's so wonderful that in India, the media is actually giving us front page now. We are actually being discussed, that we're actually getting platform. I've been on national TV myself a few times talking about this. So do you think media is representing us fairly?
No,
Okay. So
I
why
don't
not,
think
and how
they.
can this change?
Because I think, again, I think, see, when we're dealing with the kind of issues now, I said something and Sonal said pretty much the same of the levels. When the media picks only a certain section of society all the time, with a certain kind of education, with a certain kind of language, with a certain kind of intonation, accent, address, all of those things put together, I think we exclude. There is a problem inherently in India, which is why even caste issues could not be addressed sufficiently for the longest time. It may not have happened had the Dalits not risen themselves. There is a reason why the Dalits also, by and large, from what I know, don't trust any of the political parties. They have to create their own representation. We are not addressing the intersections. I think only the queer community does it, not the press,
Okay.
that addresses the
Or also,
intersections. Because we just assume everyone. The biggest problem in the press is if they meet Sonal, they think all people are like Sonal.
So no.
They'll talk to you, they'll all think, okay, chalo, they'll add your address to it or the city to it, and they'll decide that. They have no wide scope. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, they're not doing their job sufficiently. They aren't, and I'm sorry. We don't need to thank the press to do their job. We have to get over that. We need the press to work much harder on several issues. They didn't do it for women, so we also suffer.
Yeah.
and
I'm
also
sorry.
it's only the English media, by the way, the
By
English
the and
Okay.
media, which
also
is
also a section of the English media.
yeah,
The
and
lot of the
also
English
like,
media doesn't know that I can't give blood to my mom.
yeah. No, I think, like,
Right?
see, when it
Simple
comes to
things
say
like
English
that we take
media,
for granted. Sorry.
the English media, Hindi media, a little bit, but
Hmm.
also like the people that you make us sit next to, like they are not raising the debate. It's like a shouting match. I
Yeah.
go to certain channels only because I want to show that I'm not going to get bullied, not for, like, the actual debate, quality of debate. It's just to, like, project that we're not going to get bullied.
Hmm.
But if you talk about regional languages, where are the speakers?
Yeah.
There aren't enough spokesperson. They are not even covering this kind of issues. And the regional languages is where our mothers and our fathers, are taking their this thing. The whole sensationalization also. I am glad certain channels have taken a stand that they are not going to get raging homophobes talking to us, because it's really triggering also to sit and
Yeah.
talk with people who just, there's just no sense. There is just like hate. It
Yeah.
doesn't help us. So I'm glad that certain people are doing it. And I've been part of some debates where, the host is just playing devil's advocate.
Yeah.
That's just unnecessary, because you can play devil's advocate in a situation where the power structures are almost equal. In this case, I am talking about my life. After the camera switches off, my life is continuing to be in that kind of thing. And I met a lot of opposition people, before and after news panels. They are not affected at all.
Yeah.
Some of them are just there, they haven't not thought through anything. They don't have any background on the subject, and they are just called and given this kind of publicity unnecessary. You know.
I agree. I agree. I'm just going to again spend some more time on this because I've been on few channels, and Sharif, this is from the media PR perspective as well. You know, people are so easily able to call the opposing is so easily able to call us filth on national TV. Not once, not twice. I was on a channel, and while the host questioned it, but that person was able to get away with it. A very, very senior person called me and Sridhar filth. And I was saying, like, how are you even allowed to have this language? And why doesn't the media, that particular media, go after those people? This is absolutely not allowed, but it's allowed. That's number one. Number two, Sharif, how do you feel when there is a panel? Because again, I've been on few panels where they have an 18-20 minute slot, sometimes even 10 minutes, and they have 6 or 7 panelists who cannot just even give an opinion. So to me, it looks like tokenism again, something tick in the box. Are same sex equality, marriage equality, kar diya, khatam. So what is your response to that, Sheriff? How do you manage that?
Well, I think I actually did a couple of Hindi, uh, conversations, which was a bit of a challenge for me, because that's not a language that comes naturally to me. But I did it actually because my mom says, no, you better go on it, because that's where there would be people
Exactly.
who would be spewing all kinds of nonsense. And so, I see. I think I'll say two things here on this. Was that journalism is no longer journalism. I mean, it is TRP led. It is masala. And I think, let's face it, that even how we bring up children, giving boys guns, etc., violence seems to be part and parcel of how you bring people up also. Violence in a home, and then it's the hero worshipping. Heroes developed also around violence, right? He needs to beat a few people, he needs to have 10 guns bullets inside, and then still rise up. And that sort of triumph that is there. Violence is something that women have also got used to, that they become submissive, and they believe that's the way. Okay, the violence also gets romanticized. So what we see on TV is a reflection over the years of that kind of stuff. That you can't have sensible conversations, not just on our rights, but on so many things. Someone has decided the agenda. Sometimes we are okay with it because the agenda suits us.
Yeah,
Right now, for example, we are questioning some of the lawyers who are representing us. But if we go to the history of some of the lawyers who spoke really well for us, and I'm not talking about queer folks who were there, if you know their history and who they represented, you would wonder. Right, so we don't have morals left, in certain institutions that should actually carry those sort of basic ideas of dignity, choice, values, etc.
sure,
So I think that one part is gone. So we can't really change that overnight. It's going to take forever. We have to find alternative ways to do that.
sure.
Now, yeah, and I think maybe we could even learn from the RSS, because when they were ignored for the several years by the kind of press that we had earlier, and they weren't part of politically, they were working on the ground level. The cadres were working for like 30, 40 years to come to where they are today, right? We've lost that context. We are elitist in that sense, right? Like the Congress is that sort of, elitist party which has lost the connection with the ground.
True,
Exactly.
true.
Right. So now to the other thing is, on that channel when I was there, you know, I decided that there's no point trying to explain to an RSS person who was there. There was a Malvi. They both joined hands to call us all kinds of things.
Yep.
I just said two things. I said dignity has already been given to us by the privacy order, okay, which is 1 year before to the section 377. Second is, the constitution is above what society thinks, what religion thinks. Constitution in fact allows your religions to survive in this nation.
Sure,
Okay, so
sure.
what you believe, but that doesn't take our sort of rights. And I counted it in Hindi, obviously, in whichever way. But the aggressive lady who was the anchor, नहीं नहीं, पर आपका मकसद क्या है, शादी का मकसद क्या है, I was like, whoa, you know I mean, poor Arnab looked bad, yeah, for that moment.
Interesting, but you know what?
Tell me to
This
calm down.
So I just said, "Pyar,
Calm
pyar."
down.
I said,
Calm
"Shayad
down.
aapko no, I just said, "Pyar, pyar." I think I said it 4 times
I
or
remember
something like
that.
that. Almost, yeah. And after that, I mean, it was cut. But I said, after I said, "Aur koi maqsad hai?"
Yeah, it's interesting how what the agenda is from the other side. We have no idea. Sonal, you and I were on a channel together with someone, I won't name them. They kept saying about religion. It's against the Hindu religion, and it's unnatural, unnatural, unnatural. And they repeated this so many times, and as if she was talking on behalf of the entire clan of Hindus. And I could see your face, Sonal. Of course, I was far away, and I could
My
see
face is
you
too transparent. Huh?
too
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
transparent. At least to
Yeah.
me, I
Yeah.
can see. And I was thinking, like, how do you sit quiet in a room like that where actually they are spreading hate when we are talking about love? So it's simple. That's why, Sharif, I really loved that snippet that I watched about your saying
I
pyar,
remember.
pyar, pyar, because that is what it is. We are talking the
Yeah.
language of love, and we've been
Yeah.
thrown the language of hate, which we don't seem to understand. So I'm coming back to that
Get it.
question that I started with. So one by one, Sonal, do you think our Indian society, are we ready for marriage equality? Are we ready, first of all?
So I think like I'll come back to that debate that we were part of. So this person who was representing the Hindu community, she actually said, "I don't believe nature is natural." So when I heard that, you can go back and check. She's saying, so, I was like, I removed my specs and I was like, okay, so this is the level of debate. So then we began from nature is not natural.
Nature's
Okay.
not natural.
So now for me, like, for a lot of like homophobes, actually, I have got so used to now talking to homophobes that it's become boring. I am now looking for homophobes who come with some really good arguments, like, which even make me think, for example, this whole incest argument, I really thought about it and then I came up with my counter argument on this whole incest thing. So, like, okay, that level of debate is sort of interesting, but otherwise, like, I just feel that, I've reached a place where, okay, it really doesn't matter. Like, the thing is, I keep saying, and I like love that when Parth keeps reminding people that all these arguments, nature versus nurture, blah, 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 we already covered in section 73377, the
Yep.
court case 7377. We're done and dusted. Okay, we've already sorted it out. You're still like you're standing like way behind. Come to our level and like engage in debate. That's one. Second bit is India sort of ready? Okay. The thing is like the whole of India doesn't need to be ready. Yeah, I'm ready. No, my family is ready. And also sometimes when people say society is not ready, society is not ready. I mean, you're forgetting I am also society. My parents are also society, as well as my people, and ours are me being a citizen of India guarantees me certain constitution fundamental rights. Okay, that doesn't matter. Like it's not based on majority. So I am a citizen of India. You have to give me these sort of rights. I'm not trampling in your rights. Also, there's a huge policy if you're going to keep waiting for a majority to agree for minority rights. It can't work that way. Because if I tell you right now, people of India live in 5 different eras. Like you look at this woman
True
who's
that.
like nature is not natural.
Nature is
Uh,
not natural.
uh, so okay, so and also I felt like some of these people who are representing religion, I feel they are not well read, which gets me a bit annoyed. Like I have read more about religion than you guys. I can give a better argument than you can. At least read up and come to these panels. Like I feel like even the media doesn't do its homework. Like get us some good panel representatives so that spirit of debate. So I am all for spirit of debate, and that's how I keep myself positive about it so that I learn more.
So we are saying,
But
so
otherwise, it's
basically,
boring.
Sonal, you're
But is
saying
India
this.
ready? I think India is not ready. Okay?
Okay.
India, I mean, the majority isn't ready.
Okay.
But ठीक है ना, like अगर मियाँ बीवी या मियाँ मियाँ राजी बीवी बीवी राजी तो क्या करने
Let's,
वाले काजी ना.
बिल्कुल.
So that's where we are at. तो ये
Okay.
लोग क्या कहेंगे वाला argument ना. Now
Not
please
working
stop it.
anymore. Yeah,
हाँ.
not working
लोग
anymore,
तो
right?
कहते लोगों का काम है कहना.
हाँ,
Like it's
बिल्कुल,
going to
बिल्कुल.
continue. है ना.
हाँ, बिल्कुल.
Yeah.
So Sharif, what do you say?
Well, I would just say that I'm not going to invite everyone to the whole country for the marriage. For God's sake.
Exactly.
So I mean,
You're not invited.
I mean, even when we perform, a band and we do some rock stuff and all, not everyone's gonna come. So, I mean, I think India, you know, was not ready to ban sati.
Yep.
India was not ready to ban dowry. India, even the Congress is not ready to have more women representation, nor are most of the parties. India is not ready to, sort of agree, because Hinduism also, as a majority out here, doesn't have one new year. So you can't even agree on a new year, which is, I think, great. I think it's fantastic. That's the beautiful beauty of a democracy. So I don't think we should wait, because the charm and the beauty of the democracy is for some people to be ready for marriage and some not to be ready for marriage. Some should be live alone, some people can live with a family, some can choose their family, some can decide to leave the country, some can decide to come back to the country. No one is going to be ready for anything in any case, and let's not even assume we have so much control over anyone's life to start with. We have to understand we have very little control over anything. So whatever we can do when we can, we should. I don't think waiting for a consensus on something like this, is worth our while. Worth our
I,
time.
I agree,
So
And
Sharif.
sometimes I wonder even our community is ready for Shadi also. Like, Shadi is such an institution. We've not
Yeah.
gone through it yet.
Yeah.
ठीक है? So
I mean,
then,
look at
like, you have this
Sonal and I are not even ready to meet physically.
I have to make this
शादी
You
happen
to
करने
virtually.
try, you to make it happen.
I have to make it
शादी
happen.
के पहले divorce
Even
decide
even
कर
though
लेंगे.
three of us are totally out now, Raka.
No, but on that, Sharif, look at me.
Uh,
It took me 50
uh,
years to come out. If I'd waited for my Mangalorean community to say, Ashirwad, bless you, I would probably be 100 years old, no teeth left, dead in the grave.
You would have been
That's
singing Raga Sona or something, or Raga Rona.
Raga Rona.
You would have been
Raga
Raga
Rona you would be doing.
Rona.
So for
We
me,
have
if
the
it
other
this when this
Rona.
हाँ
Yeah.
बिल्कुल ना ये राग रोना है
हाँ,
ना
राग रोना तो
रोना है
एक,
ना
हाँ.
no but
वो
it is
तो
और
वो
true
संस्कार
एक
से
sad word है
सिखाया
ना.
जाएगा. वो
sunscreen
Sad
संस्कार
street
लगाएंगे
से.
Rona.
but हम sunscreen लगाएंगे like you said no but truly I think the society like Sonal said and I keep saying that who is society we are society so why are we not given the right to choose our own society why should other people who consider themselves society choose for us because we all have equal right I am society and I'll choose for me and I have one last question before we go I suddenly realized that we are very close to I'll actually first read some comments beautiful comments Naresh Fogat says Mr. Sharif is very right bias turns into hatred. So true. On point. Manju Patel Nair, who's also a very close friend of mine in London, she's also married to her wife of Indian origin. She says, spot on, Sheriff. Violence has become normalized, minimized, and it's the attractive stuff of popular narratives. Truly, truly, it's all aggression. I see aggression all around, and that's what we package. I mean, you see it on national TV for sure in India. It doesn't happen here, but in India in particular, that has somehow
Yeah,
become
yeah.
fashionable. It's very scary. And to your point, Sharif, about been invited on Hindi national TV, I keep telling them I can't speak Hindi very well. एक तो मैं Catholic हूँ, then I'm from Bombay. Now I live in London, so chance ही नहीं है to speak good Hindi. So I don't get that practice that I would love to. So then to have someone like me, and then they say no, you have to talk about being a mom, and I think to myself, okay, there is something that we will do together, and that's fine. But it is very uncomfortable to be not able to voice yourself because you don't speak that language. Because when somebody says something, I can't respond to that because I have to, translate it in my head. And it's tough. It's tough. And then before you even open your mouth and say a sentence, somebody else has taken over. So that's why I feel the media is not doing us really fair, giving us a fair play right now. But yes, we will fight. I have a last final question for you both. In terms of where to from now, and I say this because there have been fantastic petitioners. I mean, they have represented, I'm assuming, most of us. I mean, I'm sure there are some more that can be represented. There is the LBIT network, which came up with something completely different, chosen families that really touched me. I think that's important for us to. And then there were several other petitioners as well. But I also heard rumors that there was stratification within our community. Is that does this debate helped us come together, or has it further divided us? Sharif, start with you, and then Sonal.
Listen, I think it's a little difficult to say whether it has further united us or further divided us. I think it's yeah, it's a little tough to sort of put come to any conclusion either way, because I think one of the major takeaways that I get is the fear now. After all that has happened and all the abuse that has happened, I think there is a greater fear, even amongst people who might, let's say, if we do get certain laws in our favor, there are quite a few people who are now concerned about trans and or queer phobia across the spectrum. Uh, is this the next thing that we'll have to face more in your face in different ways? Because of the live streaming, because it was on national TV.
Sure.
It's now, that RSS report in different languages, in Marathi, in Gujarati, etc. I think there are people who are now thinking about that also, even if they get married, even if they have all of these rights. I think rather than figuring out or really finding out, because it's going to be very tough because we're such a large actually community spread across this country. Uh, the where to me is part of that answer earlier on of how do we counter the phobia and the misinformation, but how do we now fortify and protect ourselves, married or not,
Yeah.
single or not, with a chosen family or not. I think our focus really has to move as quickly as possible to anti discrimination so that we can protect ourselves in as many ways possible, because that actually hasn't happened. And there's been no sensitization done even after the 377 verdicts. Pretty much, I think every judge had talked about sensitization from the governments. There has been almost zilch, you know, of that done across states.
So
And
you're saying fear
we
stands
have to
out.
now
Fear.
we have to I think we have to find ways to come together, fortify ourselves, and that is anti-discrimination, deal with fear. We have to now figure out, even with mental health, I find, how do we cope? Like Sonam did say just a while back, because she's put so many years behind herself, that she doesn't respond or react that way. She doesn't get triggered the same way. But we now have to, even if we need to figure out how do we cope,
Yes.
because the more we come out with laws coming for us, the more backlash we would potentially face. It's happened in other countries. It
Yes.
seems to be how human beings react when there is this kind of hate. So we have to I think, prepare ourselves for those things now. The judge and the bench will do whatever they do.
Sure. So good.
You
So I
know,
think maybe there is an opportunity for us to maybe create a think tank, or I don't know, a wellness tank, whatever it is, to protect each other,
yeah,
to hold each
something
other's
like
hands
that
right
we
now.
have to, I
You
think,
know?
maybe create a network
Yeah.
of mental health folks, while the
Yes.
people who are equipped with law and those kind of things, address that. But
Yeah.
we have to do something of that sort, and take
Agreed.
it across. I think leaving it within our certain sections of the class issue, which is also caste.
Yeah.
We have to find a way to find answers also from across, because I don't think Delhi has all the answers or Bombay has all the answers. No, we
Yeah.
don't have all
Agree.
the problems, the
Yeah.
same ones.
I agree. And Sonal, what do you say?
I think in response to your question, I don't think we have always been unified or uh, not had different opinions, and I don't think that that's a bad thing. Okay, before this marriage even entered the court, the marriage equality debate entered the court, marriage has been questioned by the queer communities, especially the feminist communities, for a long time, sort of before that. And it continues. We may say, oh, elitist circles, but still, we have been questioning the institution of marriage for a long time, and I think that is a good thing. When it comes to the court debate, I think there was a bit of fraction the minute people brought in religion, like when we touched the Hindu Marriage Act. I think till the Special Marriage Act, I didn't see so much division, but once the Hindu Marriage Act came into the picture, we started seeing some division over there, right? And also this whole talk of bringing in the uniform civil code, like the Hindu
Yes.
community and the whole community should you support uniform civil code. So obviously, if we think that this is disconnected from politics, that's a misinformed position. In fact, I've been questioned about the Uniform Civil Code and my position on the Uniform Civil Code on national television, and been told that get the Uniform Civil Code. It's just good for all of you. And I went to the response to that. You need to be, of course, informed about the Uniform Civil Code and also why I don't want to talk about the Uniform Civil Code. Give me my rights and then we will talk about the Uniform Civil Code. But there are so many different positions, right? When we take positions on religion and secularism in the country. So I think like the way forward after this, whichever way this court rights swing is going to be interesting. And I think like obviously we will still continue to question the institutional marriage. I don't think that will stop. You have to look at the fabric of this community. Our entire basis is rests on diversity, and saying that diversity is important in any society, and that includes diversity of opinion, at least if you were like an activist and thought of it in that kind of way. But for regular people, their lives continue. They do want marriage, and they are not privileged or even elitist enough to make these decisions, or not getting those forums. In their
Yeah,
forums, they're talking about all of this, right?
yeah,
So the thing is that though, and so we have to continue questioning intersectionally what is sort of happening. And no, I don't. So therefore, my short answer to that is no. I don't think we will ever be agreeing, and it's good the community doesn't have a majority position. I think it's damn dangerous actually.
yeah,
So it's good that this is the way I think it should be. It's healthy for all of us. But I do think that when it came to other rights, I was very disappointed. Like I would have liked more of the community come together, talk about trans rights, or talk about supporting the Dalit communities, providing more platforms, or being led by them, things like that. Those conversations never took surface. And I have also been considering very deeply for a long time that maybe I should stop talking in the media, give other people the sort of a chance. And I've tried to shift, but what happens is then nobody ends up going.
yeah,
So I've been thinking about this also, that having a larger media pool is good. It's always good that somebody who knows Hindi can be, so I
yeah,
think within us, the people who are speaking, we need to create a larger media list for people in different languages, especially, and the people who are connected in India to pass on these names, within the community. And I'm sure milega unko.
yeah. I
It's
agree. I agree. It's just Sonal, in like in my case, for example, I do that all the time. If I get a request, and sometimes it's very early in the morning for me, I decline because I don't choose to wake up at like 3 in the morning for a
it's always
talk.
an ethical dilemma, at least for me. I don't know
Yeah,
about you, but for me, it becomes like an ethical dilemma. So, trying to be like sort of cognizant of it, and
yeah,
making
yeah,
people go on these channels. The other bit is you have to do a certain drill of media interviews to be sort of reach a point where
yeah.
you're not triggered in the same. And
You're
it's
not.
not like I'm not triggered. I am
Yeah,
triggered.
yeah,
It's only later,
yeah,
like not
yeah.
on the news channel.
Yeah, no, I
Yeah.
understand. I understand. No, in a lot of cases, I think they're very specifically, they come for different people for different things as well. Like for me, it's always when they talk about children, adoption, motherhood, same-sex marriage, because I'm legally married. So there are different things. And, but wherever there's an opportunity, I always, share it with other people because I think it is important. There are
No,
much
but I'm
younger.
also wondering ki how come we have not created a list yet? Na? Ki how
Let's
we
do
should
that.
make.
I think one good takeaway from this conversation is to create, one is a list for media, and also to create a network, like Sharif was saying, of people that we can hold each other's hands, of wellness, of mental health. Because from conversations and from WhatsApp messages, we can see that some of this is very triggering. And I think for all of us, after that filth conversation, so many people wrote about it that actually I had to take a break for a week because it triggered me. I felt like, wow, it was my family all over again telling me that you're filth.
I
So,
have to
but
take a detox for a week,
yeah,
So
exactly.
this that week was really horrible, like for me. But then you are like, okay, we'll
You
do
know,
this. We'll sort it out later.
I
But why? Like
sure,
media channels
sure,
should be more conscious, right? They need
yeah,
to be more mindful. Like
yeah.
when I go to certain news channels, you find like pride posters in their lobby and all that. But when you see the way they have shaped their debate, it's anything
No,
but
so
like a house
but
of
Sonal, I'll just say something, Sonal Raga, that I mean, about the media before we go, is that I have engaged a lot. A lot of my contemporaries are at editor levels. Okay, I have given them names, I've given them lists. Even when 377 was read down, I refused, and one of my friends kept calling, and I was in Bangkok, I was in Hua Hin in Thailand, and the person kept calling, and he says, "You have to be on it." I said, I'm not coming, firstly, if you're not going to make it representative of the country. I said, first. Second, I said, I don't want politicians. Okay, so this person actually lived up to it. So I remember there was Akai, there was Grace, there was Akash, there was someone else. It was quite unusual, that panel. And even during
I'm sure
COVID,
the
when there was
debate
this,
quality must have been good, no?
oh yeah, it was very good.
I'm
It
still
was very
thinking, I
good.
hope they had a lesbian as well. Sorry.
Yeah, there was a lesbian.
हमें भूल
So,
जाते
but
हैं
I'm
हम.
just saying is, but there are journalists who say that I would let gay people just speak, let them write their own stuff. हमें तो समझ ही नहीं आता है.
Yeah,
That's what they're saying.
sure.
Now that is a huge problem. Yes, we need our space, opinion, op-ed, all that stuff. There is no question. But if the press doesn't engage with our lives, they will still continue to make a mess of it
I
with
agree.
language, with the kind of people dialogues they have, or the focus of a conversation, or the kind of people they bring onto panels. Because that's like saying, if I don't let everyone else do the thing, then let the criminal write the crime report, let the
Yeah.
farmer write his
True.
report, please, and let people of whatever gender and sexuality, we will do our own thing and all that. We don't need editors and media.
One of the things that I'm planning to do in the near future is to bring at least, I don't know how many voices can fit into a StreamYard, is to bring as many voices as possible of people like us, activists and people who really work hard at grassroots levels, bring them here and have a 15-minute conversation, just simple, one word each, one sentence each. Are you hopeful? Are you not hopeful? That's what I want to do. And I think that's more representative of what is happening than somebody else telling us India is ready, not ready.
Rather, I have a suggestion, if I may.
Hanji.
Why don't you do one in the Pride month and ask
Okay.
people what Pride means to them? Ask different people from different parts of the country.
Country.
Okay.
Done.
Okay. Because there are different contexts and notions and the way people want to address Pride.
Pride. Okay,
Not just
fabulous.
necessarily taking, just do
Okay,
something.
fabulous. Let's
Since you
do
can.
something. Let's do something. And listen, thank you so much, Sharif and Sonal. As usual, time just flies, when we're together. But thank you so
Yeah.
much. Is there anything you want to add before I end the show and say my thanks to everyone? Sure, Sharif.
Did you wake up gay this morning as well?
Well,
How do you
every
sleep at night?
I'm not drinking this water because while we were on the show, my cat came. You must have seen the tail.
I
Cat
heard
came,
that.
drank
Yeah,
my
yeah.
waking up gay. I think he's going to wake up gay tomorrow for sure. Because of course it
Yeah.
is contagious, as we've been told.
I think gayness is a wake up call to the world.
I,
They'll
I,
get better.
I think people are scared. They might get gay. They might want a lifestyle. That's what it is. But thank you, Sharif. Sorry, anything other than that? Sonal, any last
I
word?
just want to tell the audience that there is a possibility, possibility that this may not come in our favor, right? So in
There
that
is.
case, then I just want to tell the community like life doesn't end there with marriage, and okay, we will continue to obviously fight, and I feel that it's important then for us to then again step up and come together and continue our fight and be there for each other.
Brilliantly said, Sonal. That's the best words I've heard, actually. More than anything, while there is hope, there is also a possibility that it may not happen. We just continue to fight. We continue to smile, and we
It
continue
doesn't
to.
end. Your world doesn't end. A lot of people think, oh, world
बिल्कुल
में
Yeah.
but it will not
कुछ नहीं
end.
होगा.
2009, 2013 के बाद ऐसे कुछ नहीं हुआ.
Both ways it
This
will
is
not end.
a logical thing. Yeah, they have to give it us one way or the other. अभी नहीं देंगे तो
Correct.
बाद में देना.
बाद में देंगे वही, लेकिन both ways the world will not end. हमको देंगे तो भी your world is not going to end. नहीं देंगे तो भी world is not going to end. But Sharif, what is going to continue is प्यार 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 प्यार, है ना?
4 बार.
4 बार बोल दो सब, प्यार 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 प्यार.
प्यार.
And on that note, thank you so much, both of you. Fantastic
you.
to have you. And thank you to the
Thank you,
audience
thank you.
and those who will watch this show much later. Please feel free to give your feedback to theviewsroom@gmail.com. Subscribe to my YouTube channel for many such fascinating conversations. Real information from people who live this life, lived experiences are shared. Thank you also to our partners, Lotus Visual, for their support, digital partners, Digital Fix, and our community partners, the Gay Indian Network UK. Please come to London and please visit us at the Gay Indian Network UK. Nicola, thank you very much as the producer of the show, The Views Room. And audience, thank you once again and see you soon. अगली बार हमारी सरकार.
Yeah.